Jancast.com, podcasting to a cleaner and healthier world. Mark Warner, Scott
Howdy, Scott.
Jordan. It's the Jancast.com number 84. So let's get these off because we are socially distanced in our offices as well as on Zoom. Mark, how are you doing today?
Everything is good, and looking forward to our discussion today. We've had a lot of discussions over the last week or so about, many things happening in the world.
Yep. So supply chain stuff, we talked about that last week. The main thing that seems to be consistent is all of our suppliers are raising their prices, but they got plenty of stuff. So
the good news is we've been promising a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to raw material supplies. So that's great. And to dovetail that, we've added a new quart line and bag-in-a-box line. So our capacity's increased. So, I think it's about time to share some good news on the Bullen supply chain.
Yep. So if you need products, it doesn't have to be disinfectants. We got it. We can make it for you. So there is a little bit of news. We were commenting before we went on recording here that we think the EPA was watching our show last week, right?
Yeah, they might have been listening in when we were talking about the perplexities of the vaccine and how it might deal with the currently three different strains of SARS-CoV-2 that are out there. Of course, one that's commonly being referred to, although it came from Wuhan, a lot of people are calling the one strain the Italy strain, and then there's the Great Britain strain, which is highly contagious. And then the one that we talked about during the last program was the one coming out of Africa, and that one had the ability, they thought, to maybe mislead or hide from vaccines or antibodies. But the EPA probably heard our show and said, we need to address this. And so, as you said, they just put out an announcement that there is no indication whatsoever that any of the vaccines are going to have any difficulty in taking care of all these SARS-CoV-2 mutations.
Well, of course they were watching our show. I mean, millions of people watch our show every week or whenever we put it out, if it's weekly. But it's good to hear that the experts have agreed with what we told everybody last week.
And some very important people do watch this show.
Oh, yeah.
Even folks in Kansas City.
Like we used to shout out the JK.
That's right. We probably need to end every show with that typical Jancast.com shout out to JK.
Yeah, I don't think JK's watching since he retired, though. But so the next news is very exciting for me because I have an Apple Watch, and apparently the Apple Watch, I have to read this a little bit. The Apple Watch may be able to detect if a wearer has coronavirus days before they're diagnosed or symptoms appear, based on a new body of research. So apparently, the new Apple Watch keeps track of your heart rate and fluctuations in your heart rate. Some people have medical conditions where you get going too fast or they have intermittent stoppage. So the heart rate monitor that's on the watch is extremely accurate. And they're thinking that maybe there's some way of tracking the differences in your heart rate that coincide with whether or not you've got symptoms or you've got COVID before it actually comes to pass that you've got it. So very interesting stuff. That's technology.
I know that for a long time they've been able to monitor body temperature and heart rate. You link all that together, I guess, with certain algorithms, and you can determine whether somebody's probably got it. The scarier thing is, rumor has it that all that goes to some database where they can determine whether or not you're speeding on the Schuylkill Expressway or not.
Apple's supposed to be pretty good about that type of thing. But so it says medical researchers at Mount Sinai Healthcare System, for example, found that Apple Watch can detect subtle changes in a user's heart rhythm up to 7 days before an infection can be detected. So that's what it's tying into, is it knows what your normal heart rate's supposed to be, and then sees changes that you would not normally even be able to feel yourself. And because it's monitoring on a 24-hour basis, if you're wearing a watch, they're able to detect it. So that's pretty exciting. Pretty exciting news from a technology standpoint. This technology stuff's just amazing. I can even tell what's in my refrigerator without actually opening the door.
we promised we weren't going to talk about refrigerators.
Well,
But you know, it's a
speaking of
great,
technology, though,
it is a great segue into like the bigger picture of Internet of Things and
yeah,
how you can have a smart home and really monitor your lighting, your whether the doors are locked, and perhaps what brand of beer is in your fridge. You know, so you know, all or whether it's working. So
yeah,
the smart home thing is part of that Internet of Things, as is obviously our smartphones.
yep, yep,
And you know, really, it takes us into, you know, how much else is going to get smart. We had smartphones going on. We've got smart homes going on. We got smart watches going on. Um,
yep. We got VR technology that's coming down the road. So eventually, maybe the next show or the next show after that will be. You'll tune in and you'll see Mark and I with our VR glasses on,
well, that
and we'll be cleaning virtual bathrooms.
well, where this you know, that's a beautiful segue into you know, how we intend to be using Jancast.com as a platform and how
Hmm.
it'll dovetail with what we've done with COVID-19 updates. And
Yeah,
part of it is the ability to tap into different types of training, whether it be product related, whether it be tactical on how to do things, or
yeah,
strategic on how to manage things. Those are all things that training can provide, and we'll have the platform to do that for folks. But the interesting thing is, where does that lead to? And you bring up VR, which is the virtual reality goggles
hmm,
that can literally have somebody go through a training event where they're literally exam room or an OR room or a bathroom or
yeah,
dealing with a high-end floor. And in these goggles, in this virtual reality, they're able to go through and learn how that should be done. And then that graduates into something that's called AR. And that's, you know, AR is augmented reality. So
yeah,
a lot of folks don't really know what AR is all about. I guess the easiest way to explain it is to think about like the heads-up display in a sports car, where your tach and your speedometer show right up on your windshield.
yeah,
Or another way to describe it is what you might have seen on TV shows, that fighter pilots are able to look around and their aim
yeah,
can actually focus in on moving objects. And then it's also, you talked about it in your sports car, your
yeah.
Volvo sports car.
Yep, yep.
Um,
Shows me what's in front of the car, what I can't even see because there's cameras up there.
and
Yeah,
it's like a 360 view, right?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
that's all augmented reality. So the idea is that at some point we'll go from classroom training and getting the basics to somebody getting involved with VR, and then you put them on site for the next level of training, like a pilot goes through.
yeah,
And they'll actually be go into a room and they'll be wearing glasses that'll put a display of what they need to pay attention to. Where do
hmm,
they find the direction panel on the chemical label that says what their dwell time is?
yeah,
What do they do first? Do they start left to right? Do they do top to bottom? And what are the key points to look at? That's AR. And everybody's saying that this is going to lead to a brand new reality, Scott,
Oh
that's
boy.
being referred to by Michael Moe as XR. And XR is extended reality. So it's a digital world. It's where you've got like goggles and AR and everything going on, and you could be orbiting Saturn and thinking that you're literally on the deck of an ocean liner
Yeah, when you're not there. Yep,
when you're not really there. So
yeah,
that has aspects of where life might go years to come. It certainly would make its advent in education and training first.
yep,
And when that technology is readily available, we'll be adopting it as quickly as we possibly can. Right, Scott?
yep, yep. But today you're going to be doing a seminar on our newest subject, which is extreme cleanliness, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. It's boiled down to the fact that people don't necessarily see professionals coming in the middle of the night or after hours doing the disinfection. So people actually don't make a judgment call on whether they're safe and comfortable going into a public building. Um, they're not really sure. So they look around and they want to gauge on how clean does this look? I mean, do the floors look like they're well kept? Do the carpets look well kept? Are there odors in the bathrooms? All of those would be red flags to somebody looking for some sense of security. So the whole era that we're moving into is a new norm of people literally coming to the point where they're expecting extreme cleanliness, cleanliness in all areas, no odors, no smudges, no fingerprinting, which is human soils, and all those things that are that help somebody gauge whether or not they're comfortable going somewhere. So I think it starts a brand new trend of the need or the expectation of extreme cleanliness, and we think we can help.
Yep. And by the way, we have the trademark on that extreme cleanliness, and we also own the domain. So in case anybody's wondering, you did come up with that. So it wasn't, we didn't steal it from somebody else.
No, we did not.
Yeah. So very, very, very exciting time. So we're getting things hooked up in the BBS, the Bullen Broadcast Studio. There's a lot of technical challenges to being able to do multi-camera shooting and things like that. So we'll hopefully have that worked up for you next week so we can be broadcasting live or recorded from that studio.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of the Bullen Broadcasting Studio, BBS. The beauty of that is it's not just recorded the way these have been, and they will be recorded archives for people to refer back to, but we do have the ability to broadcast live. And the biggest benefit, you might be wondering, well, what benefit would that be to me if I can catch the recording? The biggest benefit is that we have the opportunity to have audience interaction, to have somebody literally ask a question like, hey, you were just talking about VR, is there any out there? And we'll be able to answer those kinds of questions literally live, which is quite fantastic.
Yep. So very, very exciting time. So Mark, might be one of our shorter shows, but there's nothing wrong with that. So anything else before we sign off?
Well, just that next week, our full expectation is to be broadcasting from the BBS. We're still bringing in equipment that we need to do it the way we want to. And so there's specific needs that we have to do our program that kind of go beyond a traditional set. So we're looking forward to that, and we'll talk a little bit, and I think in the upcoming show, Scott, doing a little bit deeper dive on what we mean when we're referring to things like product training, tactical training, strategic training. All three are very, very different. All three are incredibly necessary. So, and there's not a lot of ways for people to necessarily engage in tactical training. What is the best practice for doing something? Or strategic training, which is how do you manage a team of people involved with doing high-end cleaning operation, like workloading and staffing and productivity rate assessments and meeting certain benchmarks for cleanliness in a facility so that you can lay claim to being extremely clean and embracing extreme cleanliness.
That's right. So it's a lot of good changes coming. And today, if you're watching this show a year from now, today the administration is changing. In fact, it's 12 o'clock right now, and Biden is making his speech. So we've got a big change there. New emphasis on the vaccine and controlling COVID. So we're hoping that that'll bring a lot of other change, and we'll be able to maybe eliminate all this social distancing at some point sooner down the road.
And these things.
Yes, and these things too.
So I'm an advocate of wearing masks only because I know there's a light at the end of the tunnel where I can continue the rest of my life without one.
Yep. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in. Great to get Jancast in the can. Appreciate it very much for everybody that viewed in. We'll see you on the next show. See ya.